microphone. So I'd like to get started right now, if that's okay. And just want to tell everyone I'm really honored to be here and to be a part of the conference. I mean, this is a great conference. It's a good opportunity to meet a great group of colleagues as well. So I'm happy to share this. Best practice. So I'd like to introduce myself and also give two disclaimers. So one, well, first I'll give the disclaimer. Unfortunately, Dr. Battle is not able to attend. So unfortunately, she's not here today. We put together this presentation, so it is a collaboration, and I have to admit, she is the expert. She's more of an expert on this than I am, so I will do my best to answer any in-depth questions about the calendar function. So to introduce myself, my name is Mfan Akpan. So I'm business faculty at National Louis University, where I teach courses online, blended, and also face-to-face. And to give you a little bit of background on this and how this calendar feature came about and why I say that Dr. Battle, she's the expert, to tell you initially, she would tell me about using the Blackboard calendar. First of all, let me get an idea. If you can raise your hand, who uses Blackboard is familiar with Blackboard? Okay. Who's familiar with the calendar feature in Blackboard? Okay, great. So let me ask this other question. Do you use that in your coursework, normally, in your classes? How do you use it, if I might ask?
Actually, it uses itself whenever I create an assignment or any type of assessment. It's automatically populated into the calendar. In our system at our school, you have to activate the calendar. It's not typically available and out there. So I just go ahead and activate it. And then this way, what I like is that my students will see all of their due date assignments and quizzes and things populating on their calendar. I'll look at my calendar and I can see everything that's on my calendar. Jess was looking at her calendar, she sees all of hers. So that's the reason why I use it, is because it's a nice snapshot for my students of what they need to have done by when.
Okay, great. Anyone else? Any examples?
Well, I use it too. When I do my assignments. I'm not sure the students are using it though.
Right.
And so that's why I thought maybe I'd find some other options. Because I just had a student recently who said, I didn't know anything, it was no due, even though, I sent emails and announcements. And I said, well, did you look at the calendar? You should look at that to see if you plan. Well, I don't know, what is that? I'm like, it's right there. So obviously I could do a better job of helping them use that if there was a way of doing that.
Exactly. So to kind of give a little more background, so Dr. Battle, we're good friends, and she always would tell me, you need to use the calendar feature. And again, it just went in one ear and out the other. But one day we had a conversation, and I teach also at other institutions. So I was explaining to her about how I'm organizing my personal calendar. So she explained to me that you can actually export, you can connect the Blackboard calendar to your personal calendar. So I did that. That changed everything for me. Because then I've got an Android phone. So I was able to export everything there. So all of the assignments and due dates, I've got them on my phone, on my personal calendar, which helps me. It helped me to organize things. So I said, wow. If this is helping me, I'm pretty sure this will help my students. So that prompted me to start using the calendar. So, and that's what we're going to talk about today. So, we're going to look at how to use the Blackboard calendar feature, understand the connection between time management and student success. So we'll take a look at that. And then look at some tips on encouraging time management. So when we talk about time management, It's really balancing activities. So when you think of students, many students are what they call non-traditional students, right? A lot of students, they're either going to school part-time, they're working, have children, etc. So they have a lot going, life is going on, right? So this helps to simplify and make life easy through time management. Now, when we talk about time management, it allows students to be more efficient, right? More efficient, they're able to actually plan, use their time wisely, as we would say. So they're able to prepare for classes. One of the ways, because they know what assignments are coming up, what quizzes, what exams, what's due. The other thing, it gives them that time to study. So when you know what's due, then you can allot for time to do your study, to prepare for a test, prepare for homework, etc. Helps you to remember information. You may forget. Like I was mentioning, what changed me was the fact that I could actually now look at my calendar, and I don't know if anybody can see this, it's kind of all pink and stuff, it has everything all over, but these are all the various assignments, meetings that I have for my classes, and it also gives me notifications. You know, it'll let me know, okay, this assignment is going to be due, so that means I need to go into Blackboard and check on it for my various classes. So that helps me. It also helps students. So these are 3 key habits that we consider they foster learning and college success. So this is a great caption, I think, where you're chasing time. So let's look at the how. So when we look at this, has anyone seen this outline of the calendar before? Okay. This is actually a topical outline of the course. This is an example of one of Dr. Battle's classes, but this is an outline of the course, and as you see, it has what activities are due, it lists the quizzes, it tells you what quizzes are due. So it gives it.
In the calendar format?
Sorry?
I said, I've seen that content, but I've seen it in the calendar format. How do you get it to be?
There's a way that you can set this up as an outline.
Okay.
I will get that information for you. So here's another view of Blackboard, the main page, and the task due. And this is the home page, and this is actually in student view. Now, if you've used Blackboard before, you know you can change what the students see when they log in. So here, when we have the calendar, you're able to, there's a list of the assignments, and these are the due dates. Now, is anyone familiar how you can set the due dates on the calendar? Does anybody know how?
When you set up your assignment, there's usually an option there that says calendar, item, due date, and you just put it there.
Right, so you need to put in a due date.
Right, when you set up your assignment, right.
Exactly. So once you put in a due date for the assignment, then that will show up in the calendar. And then what she has here, she has her, if you can see this, she has her various calendars, and she's got them color coded. So these are her personal events. So these are institutional, these are personal. You know, she's got Blackboard faculty, tutorials, and then she also has her classroom events here, which are showing on this calendar. So if you uncheck these will not show up on your calendar. Also, the students, they're not able to see your personal or any of the other items. They're only able to see what they're enrolled in with Blackboard. Is everybody good with that? And then this is what we were talking about as far as creating an event. So you can create an event. In this case, she teaches Intro to Community Health. So she has that event, and this is for students to read certain chapters and to do an activity. So this creates that entry in the calendar. So this creates a due date and a reminder for them to do that. that activity, so which is different than an assignment.
So, excuse me, so if that's not linked to an assignment, a quiz, or a discussion board, some gradable thing, you can actually just create a calendar event as a reminder to students,
Right.
not really, and I saw that, I've never used it.
Right. So she's creating that event
Where do you create that?
in the calendar. You go into the calendar feature.
Uh-huh.
You create the event, and then it's being assigned to that course.
You click on the date.
Okay, so on your content area, you just click on calendar, and then you get that whole thing that comes out.
To create an event, yes.
And then you click on a date, and then that date opens up a create event option.
Right. It creates an event. So so the key thing is you got a start date and an end date, and then here you have a description. So you've got notes that are there.
Right, but how do you tie that to, well, you just do
Right.
that in a particular
Well,
class?
this is the first step.
Okay,
So the second step, you got the event, so this is where it's tied to that calendar for that course. So then that goes into that. That was a good question. So we're looking at this course, Intro to Community Health. So this is the same course we were looking at before. So this ties it to that course. These are some other courses that she has, but this ties it to that course.
So when you're in calendar, go to plus sign in the top right, and that's where you can create an event.
Okay.
What you're saying.
okay.
So, but I think the question is, how do you assign that to a
Well,
particular
right, but
course?
then, once you get into that event, then you can do that. I just was saying that usually, as you were saying, the events populate themselves when you create a gradable assignment.
Oh.
But I've never used it to just create like a reminder that's not linked to something that's gradable.
I got you. Right, because if you're creating an assignment or a quiz,
You populate that, it says due date, and then automatically populates.
right, once you set that due date, then that populates in that calendar for that course. That was a great question. So here's the part that I felt was very important. There's an option, as I mentioned before, where this actually, I found the value in this, was being able to export this to an external calendar. So you can export your Blackboard, you can connect your Blackboard calendar to either you have an iPhone or to your Google. I'm an Android user, so it goes to my Google Calendar, my personal calendar. So you're able to do that with this link and connect it to your calendar. So then, as I was showing before, all of the events, so all of the course assignments, all of the due dates, that actually show up on your personal calendar. You can have that on your cell phone or your tablet, whatever device, receive notifications. This is great. The next step is students can also do this. So this isn't something you can just do. Students can do this as well. And they can connect this to their personal calendar. So then they've got their assignments, the due dates for your class, they have their personal event, everything in one place.
Does that automatically sync every time it gets updated?
You can set it on how you want it to update, how often you want it to sync.
So, I'm sorry if I
No, this is great, I love it.
I would wonder if you could actually go into your Blackboard page on your own and just show, because I've never seen that in an external calendar, like I'm not sure I would recognize what to find.
Okay.
So maybe at the end of the presentation, you could just show, like, log into a Blackboard page that you have and just show us what that's at.
Okay. No problem. But any other questions with this? Does that make sense about how you can export that? I mean, for me, this was the part of our conversation. This really opened up, and I saw a lot of value in this.
Well, I see value for the students too, as long as it syncs, like in whatever settings. I don't know if they use it, so I don't know what settings to set for syncing.
Well, so I'm an Android user. Just to give you an idea, what happens, you get a link, and then I would go to my calendar in Google and then add it. And then you can set up the settings for how it's connected, how it would show up in your Google calendar. If that makes sense.
Well, but I'm talking about the student. If the student exports this to their phone, or whatever phone they have, does it generate reminders on their phone?
Right, I think, let me try to show you here. So, is anybody an Android user? Anybody? Okay, so you're an Android user. So, an Android is Google, right? Or Alphabet. So, what happens when you go to, you will actually set this up in your Google calendar. So the calendar that's on my phone is my Google calendar connected to my Gmail. Okay? So when I go on my phone, I'm sorry if you're not able to see, but if I go on my phone, if I go into my calendar on my phone, I'll have, for example, here, I have all of these events, right? I've got my office hours, some church stuff, and then down here I've got midterm exam. So at the very bottom it has midterm exam. That's in my calendar. That was exported from Blackboard for one of my courses. It tells me it's from City Colleges of Chicago. Then it gives a time, so it's all day. So it automatically will sync up and I can have notifications, etc.
Okay, so this isn't quite in terms of sending reminders to a student's phone. They actually, if they have Android or if they have an iPhone, it has to sync up with, it has to be, populates whatever calendar they're using. I don't know what the iPhone uses.
The iOS.
Oh, but do they have a calendar feature, I guess, there too?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So it goes in it, but then they have to, students have to go into their calendar to set up these reminders?
Yeah, I mean, they're called alerts on the Apple phone, and essentially you have to go and you have to set up the alerts to remind you. And it can be anywhere from like 30 minutes to 2 days to a week.
So that if a student exports this and it's on their phone, then they have to go in and do this. This isn't just like it gets exported and automatically pushes.
It pushes the assignments to the phone or the.
But the student actually has to take that other step to go into their calendar and click on it and set up a reminder or send it to them.
Yeah, otherwise the only time I see it is the day.
Right.
Does
that answer it? But there's something else I think that kind of ties into what you were mentioning. So there's a, so you're absolutely right. The calendar, it'll list everything. It'll I guess import. So your Google, your Android calendar will import everything from Blackboard. It'll show up there. So you have that, which is great. Now, for another feature of Blackboard that you can actually go in and set up, you can have what's called text messages sent as a reminder. You can have, if the students have what's called there's an app for Blackboard. So there's a Blackboard app. So if the students have the Blackboard app, you can also go into Blackboard and have push notifications sent to the students, letting them know either assignments or announcements. So they would receive text messages or push notifications through the application. Is everybody familiar with those features?
Not a lot of students have that though, so it's not consistent enough that I can say this is how I'm going to communicate, because maybe one out of the whole class would have it, so it wouldn't be reliable, I guess.
Well, I mean, would they have an app or have a cell phone, or do they have email?
They have an app, and they have a cell phone and the email, but they just wouldn't have the app to put these push notifications.
Oh, okay. But you can, so when you go into Blackboard, now I'll try to log in and show it, you can actually have the push, You can have text messages or email notifications on there too. But that's really, and that was a good question and brought up a great point, thank you. It's separate from this, I guess, linking to the calendar portion, because linking to the calendar, it's moving everything into your personal calendar, and the convenience, and I think what's powerful is you have everything in one place. I think that's but you're absolutely right, you have to take the extra step to go in and then actually set the alerts the way that you want. But I mean, I think that's
pretty normal. I mean, that's kind of how I set up all the time. I mean, regardless of what they are, is I decide when I want the alerts. That kind of thing. So that's pretty typical. And you can actually set more than one alert. So if I have like a meeting or something, I might set it for a week ahead or 2 days ahead so it reminds me. And then maybe a day before, hour before, something like that.
Does it send a text or an email?
It pops up on my phone and says,
Oh, like the
this is
calendar.
happening in 2 hours or whatever, yeah.
So like that push notification. So with mine, I can actually have an email notification or a push a notification on the phone, and it would show up.
And then as you schedule things through the calendar, they'll actually come up. And up here on the screen, it will tell me that somebody sent an invite to something in the calendar. And my calendar will actually have 1, 2, 3, depending on how many invites I have. I go in, open it up, and I just hit okay, accept, decline, whatever I'm going to do with that. Okay? So.
Very good, thank you. So, but I think when we talk about the students having to take that extra step to actually make those adjustments, I mean, I think that's great because that personalizes it. So then the student is able to say, well, okay, like I was showing you here, there's a midterm exam, that'll show up. They can put an alert, a notification to remind them, hey, I need to start studying, at this time. So I think that
Being devil's advocate though.
Sure.
If they haven't got the time to pay attention in class and put it in their phone at that time, why, time management wise, why are they going to take the time? What's the motivation for them to take the time to remember to go into the calendar feature? Because they're not going to get any kind of an alert that there's a calendar thing that's been added. They have to, on a regular basis, go into their calendar and so, I don't know, I mean, that's what's.
One of the things that you can do, let's say for example, maybe your students have a writing assignment that's due every Wednesday or something like that. You can actually set up meetings or assignments, that type of thing, and set up your alert so that you get the same alert for the same meeting that happens every time that week.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, so it's I tend to do that for other types of appointments that are weekly. I just set them up on a weekly basis, and then I set my alerts to alert me.
Okay.
So
If it's not a weekly thing, though, it's intermittent.
And then, or you select dates that you know things are due, you can set up your alerts. So there are things, when I get my invites, I set my alerts right away. That's just sort of my process.
So it almost would be useful then, if I think I'm understanding this, it would almost be useful for faculty to set up their whole course with all of their calendar due dates or any events or reminders, get all that set up before the course or at the time of the course starting, so that the student only has to go into the calendar once to set that up. Because if you're releasing things or you're not setting up everything throughout the course, then every week or every 2 weeks they have to go in and do it again. So okay, so that's.
They might get the 20 things they have to do for that class or whatever it may be, and then they see that when they go okay, and then they say, okay, set this alert, or whatever it may be. So yeah, there's a lot. Or you can actually set up groups. So, for example, I have a group set up with my parents and my in-laws because they help us get our kids to school. So we share the calendar all with them, and so they get all the updates and information that we send, and my husband and I are the only ones that can actually change the dates on things, but everything gets updated to them, and that's just really easy for you. So you can also do something like that.
Which is great.
And you can piggyback with announcements. So leaving your calendar, putting those important, just due dates, so you're not flooding students. Their calendar, And then just send out an announcement, send out an
Right.
email as that.
And that's what I do on a weekly basis. I just was wondering, I could see the value of the calendar, but then if it's an added step for them to go in to do something, I just wondered if they would take that added step.
Which is great, and just to touch on that, one thing that I say for motivation is that, number one, this is a soft skill that they're learning, and this is a habit and something you're going to use at work, right? At many jobs, you're going to have a calendar, you're going to have to keep a schedule, you have meetings to go to, so this helps you. These are skills and habits you need to establish moving forward in the workplace.
Well, and speaking of establishing skills and habits, in one of the sessions yesterday that about assessments, there was a conversation about how many teachers and those individuals who are going to be working with middle schoolers, even elementary and high school, how they're learning some of the new assessment tools and other tools. And a number of individuals talked about what they know what their children are doing. And mine right now is using Google. You know, they've got the Chromebooks. So many schools are going to that, and so this using a calendar at 13, it's already part of what she does, and her classmates do it, and the faculty are pushing out and using it just as you're describing it for their college, and this is also something that's happening in high school. So the wave could be that by the time these young folks get to college, they're already going to be sort of expecting or comfortable using the calendar and moving forward. And I know that currently in one of the seminar early first sort of college one-on-one classes or student success classes that we have, there's always been a calendar function, but it's been less paper driven, sort of a paper calendar, make sure you have a planner. And now more and more faculty are starting to have students just get used to the idea of using their smartphone, because they've all got them, but using their smartphone to try to at least keep track. So you may see more students come in eventually. We're just used to doing this kind of thing.
Oh, that's interesting.
That's great. That's great. Any other comments?
I just had a question on the export calendar for the students. Is that something that they would do for each of their courses, or does Blackboard aggregate that somewhere else too?
That's a good question, because you can, I'm going to move backwards, but if I don't know if you can see
Choose
this,
their courses.
but so this is Dr. Battle's calendar, but if you're a student, you would have your courses that you're enrolled in. You may have some institutional events there, and you actually check off the items, and then they show up in your calendar, and then that would move there. Does that make sense?
And Fran, I think piggybacking on that question, the issue we have is we create our courses from templates every time that we have in Blackboard. So we have templates, so we can't populate templates with dates because we'd have to change them and update them every time we do it. So the calendar feature, I don't think there's the ability for the calendar feature to be filled out and say, this is the dates for this semester for all courses. Because all of our courses have the discussion board is due on this day.
Right.
The assignments are always due on Monday by 11:59.
Exactly.
Every week. And I've got a faculty coordinator who wants to have the calendar feature used, and I've been pushing back because if you have 150 people putting dates in, if somebody puts a due date in wrong, the syllabus is technically a legal contract. If they gave them an extra month to do the work, who's culpable? You know what I mean? So you're putting your dates in for when assignments are due, but when we have a duplication process with the template, it gets cumbersome. Now what I do is I use Blackboard's content management system, and we have a calendar that shows the dates start here and end here every week of our course.
Sure.
That the students have access to, but it's not a reminder issue, and that's, I think, the drawback to what we're doing.
Okay, so just so I can understand, so when you have the template, so it sounds like you have discussion boards, do you have quizzes as well and tests?
Assignments, due dates.
So when these are created, so you said the discussion board is due every week 11:59. When that's in Blackboard, is there a due date for that set in Blackboard? That's my question.
No, because if we set the date, the template is used, our courses are 8 weeks.
Sure.
So this template is done. This 8 weeks, we clone them into the
Right.
live sessions. The next time we clone them into the next session. So someone will have to go into all of these 50, 150, 200 templates and change the dates for everything every single time we clone.
I see what you're saying. Well, that's what,
Right.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
And that's a part, so you're doing a course copy, is that?
Correct.
Is that correct? So you do a course copy. I'm familiar with a similar process.
But you put in the dates yourself for your courses.
You have to go in there and actually change the dates. You would go in and do that, depending on
Have you
the
ever made,
assignments.
or known a faculty member to have made a mistake in putting the wrong date for a due?
I haven't. I haven't. But I think it makes, so from just my personal experience, that was a great point. Especially when I use Blackboard at this point, I use it in an online environment. And I have discussion boards, I have exams, I have the quizzes, and it makes it a lot easier, again, because I may have to go in and adjust and put in those due dates, etc. They'll populate in the calendar, but it gives me notifications. I also set it up, it gives notifications for the students, and that also allows me, you can even set it up so it notifies if it's late. So if I let the students submit assignments, by having that due date, if they can submit after the due date, then it would give me a notification that it's late. So it helps on the back end, but I see
Well,
that's a good
and
point.
what I do with that is, I also teach, is when the assignments are due at midnight, I'm not up. So the next morning, I go into Blackboard and I download my assignments for grading, and I'll put a 0 in anybody that didn't turn in on time. Then they have to contact me, and then I know it's late, type of thing,
Right.
It's a give and take.
Yes. Yes.
And this is convenient for you as an instructor and the students, because it's a calendar reminder that's there.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Can't you use the date management tool?
What's that?
The date management tool, would that resolve your issue?
Yeah, because we use templates, we can't go into the template every 8 weeks and change it.
Couldn't the instructor do it when they got in there?
That's the issue. If we have 150 instructors in a given 8 weeks, we got 150 people putting in the same dates, the chance of error, I think, and I may be wrong, is such that if they put in something wrong, are we culpable to give the students the extra time?
Well, wouldn't that be true whether they use this tool or not, though? Even if you did something without
Well,
the
we
tool?
have we actually create a calendar that is a PDF that is in every course through a link in the content management system. We change it, we make 3 calendars a semester as opposed to 155.
Yeah, but the calendar basically that we have shows, for example, it's an 8-week course, what the dates are for that 8-week course.
I see. Okay.
It just, I came here to try to understand a little bit more about it, which is great. But unless Blackboard allows us to say, hey, you know what? You can put the dates for everything that's due for a whole semester. That's only for those groups and schools that have specific dates. Individual instructors usually don't. You know what I mean?
Right. So you're saying it could be a challenge for that individual instructor to put in all of the dates and things for
Every
the
time. And if they make a mistake, and the student says, well, my instructor said I had an extra 2 weeks, and they don't,
I got you. Well,
system-wise.
exactly. One alternative could kind of be piecemeal. So instead of putting all of the dates for all the assignments, just get in there week by week and then putting in the dates. That's another option. So each week they go in and then they put in the due dates, and then that will populate in the calendar as well.
Are you guys using master course shells?
Yes.
You are. Who enters the dates in for the master course shells?
We don't have dates in.
So when they roll over these master course shells, they don't put any dates. Is the date left up to each faculty?
There's a HTML link to the content management system in Blackboard. It points to a PDF that has the fall semester schedule. then we change that for the spring, we change that, and the spring and summer, so we only change it twice. And so that's automatically there. It's the individual weekly dates that we don't, as instructional design team, we don't mess with that.
Okay.
So one thing that we do have is, obviously, of course, support schedule,
Right.
which the students can print out. And so right there, they have a list checklist of what they need to read,
Okay.
what they need to read, what they need to watch, et cetera.
So it's the faculty's responsibility to go in and put the due dates.
It's, if they want to.
If they want to use it. We actually don't, we haven't turned it off.
If you have 50 faculty teaching that same course, are the due dates all the same, or does the faculty get to choose those?
They're all the same.
Right, that's what I'm understanding.
Yeah, we
That
prescribe
sounds like there's no
the
way.
dates. That's the issue.
Now, the one thing I would like to do is sort of like with Google's calendar, I think I can take a date and move it, right?
In your Google Calendar,
Yes.
in Blackboard,
Or
or,
just in Google, just as an example, in Google Calendar, I could take an event and move the event. Can I do that within Blackboard Calendar?
as the instructor,
Yes, as an instructor,
you would be changing the due date.
right?
For,
But you could.
So you can edit.
yeah,
you can edit
exactly.
What you're saying,
Okay,
yeah.
so then on top of that, the other part of that question is, can you export? This is a little bit tricky. Can you export and import? Is there an import function?
So you mean importing your external calendar into,
No, what I'm thinking is export the Blackboard calendar at the end of the term, and then importing it back into the next term and change the dates.
right, I think that's what we were saying. So I think the issue that was mentioned and the concern is that when the course copy is done with those due dates, so you're doing the course copy, you have the due dates there, you've got that new course, the problem with getting the dates, if I'm understanding it correctly, getting the dates in that new course correct, there's a chance for error. Is that,
Yeah.
I think that's
Yeah,
what,
but the templates don't have dates in them.
Right.
but you're not using the dates, you have
No,
it
we're
turned
using
off.
a CMS document that is just linked to from every course automatically.
Right.
We
But-
changed that document once, and it's changing all the courses, because it's the same link. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, yes. But the concern was if you were using the due dates and then they copied over, the instructor, there might be error there with the instructor with those
Right, because the due
they have to
dates
change
don't,
the due
the
dates.
due dates do not automatically update. The due dates, if I put September 30th, and you copy that course September 30th that same year, it's still staying there.
Exactly. Does that make sense? So that was, I understand that. And that's why I was saying that will ultimately arise, but it would be on the faculty member to actually
You
change
have to
that.
keep updating it every time they teach.
Right. So one thing I want to ask, do you have a checklist system? So some type of checklist that's set up, that could be included in a checklist before the courses start to make sure due dates are arranged.
If the faculty will follow a checklist.
If they follow, yes, if they follow the checklist.
A lot of ifs
Yes.
and all.
Right?
Yes. So we're moving towards the end, but a lot of awesome and great questions. But, and I think we've already talked about this, about being realistic, right? It makes sense for your situation, scheduling ahead and setting priorities. Setting priorities. I'm big personally as far as actually scheduling, especially with an online course, trying to have everything already scheduled out before the course starts and everything is actually there. But again, you can also do it what I call piecemeal. You can do it week by week. You can put the due dates for the assignments in there as well. And then, let's see here. So these are some links that we have here for time management. So these are great for students, resources for time management. Any other questions? I mean, we already had some great questions.
Walk into your Blackboard?
Sure, I will try. But any other questions? Concerns?
Thank you so
Thank you
much.
for your time. Thank you.